Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Before I get into this video, I'd like to ask you all to please leave a like or comment on my video and consider subscribing to my channel. Now, in the background gameplay right now is me doing one of the T9 encounters in my Cyclone at the moment. Now, please note that this is me analyzing the actual structure of the anomalies, and I am going to base my overall judgment on where the increase in difficulty was based on four things: the amount of damage the enemies take, the time it takes to clear the anomaly, glitches, and faults within the system. Now, if any glitches or faults occur, I will explain them as we go through. Now, here is it to start with. Now, the first four in the wave weren't that difficult because it was easy to pick off with two of us, the frigates and the destroyers in the first wave. We then took out the cruiser and we went straight for the battleship. Now, if you are looking at it, I'm looking at it from the loot, and I'm also going to go through exactly how bad the loot was after all of this was completed. Now, here we go. First one, locking up the first ship, second ship, third. Now, as you can see, all of them are being locked up. However, watch carefully as we start to destroy this wave. The ships are now taking regular damage. So here we go. First one, first hit. My damage was increased by 20% and the resistance was also buffed up quite a bit. That actually makes me do about 80% of my previous damage. And that's with my old damage being counted against these enemies, with the fact that I'm target painting them to grow the amount of damage I can do against them. I could one-shot the shield, one-shot the armor, and one-shot the hull of any one of these ships. However, as you saw, they had a massive increase in their durability. These durability increases do not help player vessels, they only help enemy vessels. So, yeah, there's the first one. This wave is also going to complete quite easily. It is the next wave that you are going to see more of the difficulty on when it comes to the difficulty of this fight. Now, overall, this is going to be a 15-minute video, so let's give an introduction on what happened through this battle. So, first of all, taking out the enemies wasn't too difficult. It was a standard flow, we were able to destroy them quite easily, and everything seems okay in the first two waves. So, in other words, the difficulty level that has been added to these enemies doesn't seem to have much of an improvement. It's only if you had done it before and you notice the subtle differences that it does make a difference to you when you are playing. Now, as you can see, I am hitting these enemies quite well. I have quite a lot of resistance added to my ship in the form of adaptive shield hardener. Sorry, wait, is this no, this isn't adaptive, this is a reactive shield hardener. And that is just the basics of what I have on me. I'm using a target painter to ensure that I have the best signal for attacking any ship. And let's look at exactly what goes on. Now, I will give you a hint on what I picked up from this entire looting spree that I went on. I picked up 52 Amar ship debris, 2 large weapons, 0 large low slot modules, and a total of about 8 fittings in total from all the other MK9 gear that I got. So previously I would pick up at least 5 to 6 MK9 large weapons or MK9 large slot holders that will be both weapons, mid slots, and low slots. But there were no large mid slots or low slots in this pickup. So let's keep watching as this fight goes on. As you can see, the ships now have extra burst in their speed. However, picking up any slots from them hasn't been something which has been increased. The reward for your difficulty has not been given. They have increased the difficulty drastically and reduced the reward from them. Obviously, as I said, the whole idea behind this patch was purely to make more money for the game company. Yes, game companies do need to make money, but there were so many better ways for them to do it instead of doing this directly. Now, while watching this fight, you will notice that I haven't activated my micro warp drive. And look at the speed on this oversized tanky ship. Now, I am doing 280 meters per second, and it is still pulling away from me at quite a good distance. Now, the actual distance difference between us is 100 meters per second. So this shouldn't have been a problem for me. I should have been able to catch them very fast. However, in the next wave, things get a bit difficult for me as they try to keep themselves outside of 70 kilometers from me to keep at optimal range. And when I chase after them, they are so much faster than me that I can't gain on them easily, meaning they are running something like a micro warp drive or an afterburner. And even with it being an afterburner as the consideration at 200% acceleration, it doesn't make much sense. So it is a micro warp drive. However, dropping anything besides debris from these ships is becoming a lot rarer by the looks of it. So they really are aiming to reduce the amount of loot you can make off these encounters. Now this is a medium, as I said, it's not a large. So let's look through the rest of this play as it goes through. Now at this point I am in, let's see what is the time, 7 minutes into the fight. Now this next wave is going to take extremely long. Here we go, locking up the frigates to start off the wave. Look at the damage that I'm taking. It's much larger than the regular damage you would take against these enemies. There I go, locked up all of the enemies. So let's see where the fight went from this point onwards. There's it, I hit it. Did you see that reduction in damage? The reduction was 1/3 from one of my hits. Now, why was it going so low? Because they hit me with the dampener. Now, dampeners don't affect missiles, they affect lasers and other weapons. It looks like they have broad spectrumed it due to the e-warfare unit that they have increased on them, but nonetheless, watch as I go through. Now I am being warp disrupted, and watch at the reduction in damage that this ship takes against me. He is in close against me, and here we go. 2, 3. And oh yeah, my missiles deactivated during the change of targets. They haven't reactivated. There we go, they reactivated automatically. So there is my first hit that actually takes out the regular damage. I had to double Webify just to get that damage on this ship. Now let's continue on. Now the damage isn't my full damage, even though I have Webified them quite severely to do the optimal damage on it. Now as I'm going through with this isn't even the complete battle, but this is just a portion of the complete battle that occurred. And there we go again, more fire. So there is a look at how difficult all of this was overall. I'm just having a quick look at something in my character. And yeah, fortunately for me, the last few trips that I've made have been losses. But nonetheless, let's look at the rest of this fight. So here we go, hit to the ship, minimal damage, and start observing the Armageddon's pattern. The Armageddon has now started to distance itself away from me, and even with my speed, I can't catch a ship in the same speed class at me. It is keeping quite the distance from me. Now in a few seconds time I should be activating a micro warp drive. So this is what I am going to base my analysis off. So let's analyze everything from this battle in the amount of time that it has taken me. Now this was just 3 waves into this fight. I am going to look at, okay, I'm looking at where I was with my market orders, just seeing if anything filled in. Now here is everything to analyze in the fight. Damage wise, damage against smaller ships has been reduced by at least 50%. 50% what you previously used to do. The damage on my missile is increased by 20%, and that is the decrease. That means that other missile types will be reduced even more when it comes to damage. Dampeners have a wider effect range than advertised on their system. It only applies to NPCs from what I can tell. So NPC versus regular player, this is the advantage they have with their E-War systems. Moving on from that, the ability to fight these anomalies has become more difficult. The use of tactics that are pulling them away from the center of the fight has definitely made them more difficult to attack. However, the change in the resistances of the ship have made them more susceptible to all round damage, which is something which benefits a player like me a lot more. So, the armor takes more damage from missiles. Now, moving on, let's look at the rest of this fight in its detailed proportions. Battleships have become weaker when it comes to taking damage. That is not something which I will say is a positive. They were perfectly tanky enough in the past that it took enough hits to take them down. They were the perfect balance for the entire fight. Their low speed meant that you had to chase them a little bit further out, and they were perfectly tanky. They also did a sufficient amount of damage to count for their size and their weapon platform power. Now, as you watch, I have gained some room on this because it had taken another lock position on my teammate. And there you go, looking at the damage that I can do, it will give you a figure now. 2700. The highest recorded from my ship in these previous encounters was 2900 against one enemy. Now, yes, the last wave. This is the wave in which the recording cuts out in, but let's just go over the remainder of this situation. The progression through fighting these becomes very slow if you get disrupted with the new disruption weapons. The EWAR units that they use are far superior to the EWAR units that we use as players. We don't have access to the same EWAR units as them, and we don't have access to the amount of SP to get as advanced in research as these enemy units are. So, yes, that is something which is definitely there. And overall, I would give this upgrade a difficulty increase of at least 75%. Now, I am arbitrarily giving numbers over here. The reason why I'm giving it 75% is when you are locked and disrupted, the damage you do is minimal in comparison to your regular damage. I didn't get locked in this one here, so there isn't a show of how little damage I was doing. Oh, wait, there's full damage. So at one point, I got locked up with the full range of debuffs. When I was webified and dampened at the same time, along with the disruptor and several other key weapon disruptors being used against me, I only did 100 damage per shot. Now, that there is quite a bit to a frigate, but considering that they were double webified plus painted, that damage should have stayed somewhere near the 300 figure. The amount of disruption power they have with just one unit is unbelievably huge for these advantages. The enemies are severely harsh. I would say that they have about double our percentage in terms of effectiveness. That's how come they have that much of an effect. Now, that was that video. I'm just going to open it for a little bit more. And this is why I gave it that high rating of 50% increase in difficulty. Not a 50%, a 75% increase in difficulty. The time it takes to complete these mediums has increased drastically. It takes almost 40 minutes to complete it. Now, I didn't complete this mission with my friend. I actually got lagged out of it a bit, and we had to complete another wave after that wave that happened. So now there are 5 waves in a medium instead of the regular 4. So, yes, it has become slightly more difficult in that manner. I would say it's an 80% difficulty increase, while the ISK reward from these activities has reduced by 50% as well. So, basically, all round, it was an increase all round for difficulty. Rewards were lowered. So yeah, about a 75 increase in difficulty. Where should the difficulty increase have been? Somewhere near 15 to 20% of an increase in difficulty is more than justified to make it more difficult for the players. And another 15 to 20% difficulty at the end of the next month would have also been justified. There would have been 40% at the end of 2 months, and at the end of maybe 8 months, the 80% difficulty increase total would have been way more justified. However, this was a poorly executed upgrade, and why I am calling out NetEase for not doing a proper job on this update. So, this is my justification for why I was so harsh against them in the weekly patch notes. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day.